Welcome in this video, and you're probably expecting me to create the small waves, but actually before we do that, there is a really important thing that I need to explain. Because we're working on a procedural environment, the variety is basically infinite. So that's why we need to lock our camera to a position, and we will base all of our edits and all of our shading based on that angle. So we need to position our camera, and that's what I'm gonna do. The easiest way to do that, make sure you have your camera and that you didn't delete it in the first video, and just click on 0, and basically Blender right now would change to the view of the camera, but probably the camera is right now is staring at emptiness. So make sure to hit N and go to the view, and you will have here an option called camera to view. And by the way, there is a really useful shortcut that you should be using, which is Control Spacebar, which will basically maximize the editor that you are working on. So this way we can see the 3D viewport in a better way. Click on this option, camera to view, and right now wherever you move your 3D viewport, you will be moving the position of the camera. So I will scroll down to something like this, and there is a problem happening, which is, I guess it is related to clipping. So let's hit Control Spacebar to get back here, and notice that Blender, or actually the settings of the camera inside the properties editor, the end clipping is starting at 100. This means that the camera inside of Blender will only see 100 meter away from the frame. And if you think about it, our surface is actually 200 meter. It is super big for this camera. So we need to change these settings, and let's just change it to something like 1000. And bam, we can see our desert right now. We increase basically the end to a kilometer. Let's get back to the 3D viewport, Control Spacebar to maximize it, and let's just start moving our camera until you get a view that you're kind of satisfied with, which I actually think I kind of like this view. It is super cool. So I will just leave it at this position for now. Another thing that you might want to do to save more memory, hit Control B and just drag a square around this red square. So basically we created a render region. So Blender right now will only render inside this frame, and we will save a lot of rendering time later on. And now just hit Control Spacebar again to get back to the normal view. And another thing that you might want to do is basically to change the focal length of this camera to something like 24, because it is more suited to landscape shooting. And as you can see, I need to zoom in a little bit like this. That's nice. And the last thing before we finish is that we might want to change the aspect ratio of this shot. If you're watching a movie or something, you will notice those black bars on the top and the bottom, and we need to create the same effect here in Blender. So what I'm gonna do is to go to the render settings, and you will notice that I have a resolution which is 1920 by 1080, which is the basic full HD aspect ratio. So what I want to do is to give it more of a cinematic look. If you do a little bit of research, you will find that the cinematic aspect ratio is actually 2.39, and we need to recreate that same aspect ratio inside of Blender. So what I'm gonna do first of all is to change from full HD to 4K by multiplying by 2, and I will copy this number and put it right here, and we will have a square frame, and I need to give it the 2.39 aspect ratio. To do that, all we have to do is just to click on this y-axis or resolution in the y and divide it by 2.39, and bam, we got our CinemaScope aspect ratio. And as I can see, there's still a little bit of a clipping going right here, so we'll just zoom in a little bit, just like this. That's super good. I might also go a little over this part right here, so let's just zoom a little bit more. That's looking super good. Maybe also there is a little bit of clipping that is going right here, so I will move my camera to something like here, and that's a little bit better. One last thing before I finish this video is that in case your computer is a little bit slow and it can't handle the 4K aspect ratio, just drop this value to something like 50% and you will have the same aspect ratio. Make sure to plug those numbers and just basically divide it by 50%, and you will get the same resolution as full HD, or the equivalent of full HD in CinemaScope. I will see you in the next video where we will actually create the small waves. See you there.